Cenk, there was a New York Times article with this headline. It says, for progressive Democrats, new momentum clashes with old debates. Subheading, a push and pull between progressive and moderate Democrats is shaping the party's policies and politics. What do you make of that?
So I haven't read that particular article, but I'm rather surprised by it because I haven't seen the progressives push the moderates much at all. I would have them push about 2,000 times harder. Progressives are right. We're 2/3 of the country. Everybody's on our side, and we should fight for those principles and those policies. Biden didn't mean any of his agenda. He dropped almost everything that was progressive in that agenda. He's going super right-wing right now. Let's go, get up and fight them already. The number one problem with progressives in Congress, and I helped to get a lot of them elected, but I've got to be honest about it, is that they won't fight back against Biden and the establishment Democrats. We didn't send them to be there to be buddies and colleagues. I like the fight that Jamal Bowman's had recently. I like when Cori Bush did the protest on the steps. But Biden is not your friend. He, economically speaking, he has had Republican policies his entire career. And of course, right now, he's going right wing. This negotiation over the debt ceiling is totally a sham. It's theater. Biden wants to make those cuts. He volunteers cuts sometimes before the Republicans even say it. So he's not your friend, and I don't care that he's your colleague. You're supposed to fight the corporate Democrats who do not have our best interests in mind.
And Cenk, in one of your episodes, you went even further and said that Biden is a Republican on economic policy. Explain that.
Yeah, because Biden's policies have been throughout his career, what? Further incarceration, mass incarceration, cut the deficit by what? Doing what? Raising tax on the rich? No. Actually, he helped make the Bush tax cuts, which were triple the size of the Trump tax cuts, permanent. He has always helped the rich. He has always helped the donors. So when it comes to cutting spending for the average American, Biden is there. When it comes to cutting taxes for the wealthy, Biden is there. So he offered to cut Social Security and Medicare 6 different times in his career. This guy has always been conservative on economic issues. Honestly, everyone in the country would know that if the mainstream media did their job and reported the facts about his votes, his policies, and his stances.
And Anna, part of the debt ceiling negotiations concern work requirements for some of the public assistance programs. Why is that not a good idea?
Well, it's not a good idea because we have case studies, including what transpired in Arkansas, proving that not only does it fail to work, it doesn't do anything to increase employment. In fact, it ends up costing money because you need to enforce the policy. You need to have a mechanism set up to check the employment status of the people who are, taking some of these social safety net programs. And so in Arkansas, it didn't increase employment at all. In fact, most of the people who were who needed Medicaid were in fact working. The people who were kicked off of Medicaid because they allegedly didn't meet the work requirements, turns out a lot of them were working as well, but the enforcement mechanism in the state required them to check in online, and many people either didn't have the technology available to them or just weren't as skilled using the computer as others might be. And so it ended up costing the state $26 million, and the policy didn't even last 2 years. A federal judge blocked it temporarily, and then later it was completely struck down. So this idea that, we need work requirements at a time when we have record employment, we have a tight labor market. I mean, it is ridiculous to claim that you have a bunch of Americans just laying around doing nothing, taking advantage of government cheese, when again, we have record employment in the country. It's just a way of defaming the American people and making them out to be bums, when in reality, the bums are sitting in Congress and to some extent the White House as well.
All right, let's go to Millie next, who is in New Haven, Connecticut, Democrat. Good morning.
Good morning to you, and I love you both. I listen to you on YouTube all the time. We're moving into the 2024 elections and want to find out what should we progressive voters be looking for in a candidate, because I voted Democratic. And if you can educate us a little bit more on what we should be looking for. Thank you both, and I'll be hanging up.
All right, Anna, you want to take that?
Sure. I would say when you're looking at, let's say, a candidate's platform, what is their platform really about, right? So is there actual policy there that would materially improve your life? Or are you seeing a lot of, cheap, shallow nonsense that just weighs in on the culture war, weaponizes identity, and in the end will do nothing to improve Americans' lives? And if anything, if they actually get elected, will probably lead to more hostilities between people when, in the Democratic Party, in the country, we really do need to have a united front against corruption. So I'm going to say this and then toss it over to Cenk, because this is his issue and he cares so deeply about it. But it's whether or not the candidate actually gives a damn and is genuine about doing away with moneyed interests having as much influence in our elections as they do.
Yeah. Look, progressive policy issues poll at about 2/3 of the country consistently. Everybody wants them. In fact, even the Republican voters want them. They just don't know it. And the only reason we don't have them is because of money in politics. And so I would tell the Justice Democrats in Congress, I would tell Bernie Sanders, I would tell all those guys, listen, if you're not addressing money in politics, you're kind of wasting your time. I love you, but you need to focus because your colleagues are corrupt. And if you don't call it out, then the country's never going to have a national conversation about it. We on the Young Turks said that Biden was never going to do Build Back Better, that he was never going to do that agenda they called FDR 2.0. And everybody said, oh, you guys are too cynical. Oh, you guys are too this and too that. No, we're just too correct. We know that those corporate Democrats agree with the corporate Republicans on almost all the economic issues. And that what were they going to do? They open up more drilling. And Biden goes more Republican every single day. How did we accurately predict? And if you watch the show, as the callers are telling you, we predict these the votes and the elections, and we almost never get it wrong. It's not because we're smart. It's because it's super simple. Follow the money. The money always wins in Washington. So until you stop the private financing of elections, you'll never get politicians who work for the public interest. They'll work for the private interest who funded their campaigns. So look, there's this great organization, Wolfpack, wolf-pack.com. They are totally nonpartisan. They've got Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, progressives. They got everybody in there. And their number one drive is a constitutional amendment to end the private financing and the legalized bribery that we have in this country. It has unfortunately made America the most corrupt country on earth because we're the only country that legalized bribery. And it drives all of our politics. The political scientists say that the bottom 90% of this country has almost zero effect on policy. Yet no one in the media noticed it. That seems a little bizarre.